Hey guys, what's up? Mike here. Been a minute, but such is life. Anyway, I got a question for you. Have you ever seen a design you've seen before but can't quite remember where you saw it? And it kind of bugs you because you see it everywhere, but you don't remember where you originally saw it from or who actually designed it. Yeah, I know. And I got the answer for you. Let's get right to the point. This design is called Jazz, and it has a very rich and Carmen Sandiego-sized mystery to it, which finally resolved itself in 2015. Kind of. And it was solved by no other than Redditors, of course. Who else could solve this Titanic mystery? Well, maybe it's a little smaller than the Titanic. Still a mystery though. Before we get into it, if you're not aware, this design has somewhat become of a cultural statement and has revitalized itself in what is currently called Vaporwave aesthetic. Vaporwave is a design movement of nostalgic culture and somewhat of a commentary on consumerism. But long story short, this design is everywhere, even still being used today. And while people have this on shirts, their cars, or in games, a lot of people don't know who designed it or what it was originally designed for. The reason why this design is so familiar to you is because it's your childhood. Well, for some of you, it's your childhood. But like most iconic designs, its growth and popularity started with a young designer who lost the rights to that design, ultimately to a large soulless corporation, and regrettably was quickly forgotten about. That is until Redditors. Because most modern day mysteries are solved on Reddit, remember that, ultimately leading to Twitter, where the daughter of the designer spoke out. But hold on, because the mystery thickens. There is another designer that came out saying they actually designed Jazz, and it wasn't called Jazz originally. Now, the two designers in play are Stephanie Miller, the one who rebukes the actual designer, allegedly, Gina Eckes. Well, you know what this means. Okay. A little history lesson first. Eckes began working at then called Sweetheart Cup Company in 1987. She was one of 32 artists when the company in 1989 planned to replace its then current cup design called Preference, which is actually another iconic design you remember but not quite knowing from where. Sweetheart Cup Company decided to hold an internal competition with their designers to come up with a new design. The requirements were simple. The cup design needed to be universal since it would be used on multiple products, including consumer goods, healthcare, and restaurants, and it had to be 1 to 2 colors, since the printing process limited the number of colors they could use. Eckes designed a few concepts, and in 1991, Jazz was selected. Eckes said the purple and teal were her favorite colors, and the design was based off a charcoal drawing she did in school called Razzie. Jazz is an apparent play on that original name. In 1992, the Jazz design was in full production and used on not only cups, but disposable bowls and plates. Apparently that design did very well. When Solo purchased Sweetheart Cup Company, Jazz did so well it was one of their top grossing stock designs for disposable dishware. As for Eckes, well, she stayed with the company up until 2002, right when Solo decided to relocate the art department. She ultimately wanted to stay where she was, so she left the company, and mystery was solved, right? Well, Miller said she actually designed it, but she doesn't have any actual proof, nor does the company she worked for have proof either. The design is owned by the Solo Cup Company, so I don't actually see how she could be gaining any royalties from this, but she does say something interesting, and we'll get to that in just a second. First, in the late 80s, Stephanie Miller, who was also a graphic designer, worked for Imperial Bondware, which was a carbon copy of the Sweetheart Cup Company, and just like them, they held a competition to create a new cup design. Now this is where it gets a little blurry. The way the Wikipedia article phrases it, Miller stated that someone from Sweetheart found her design and gave it to Eckes to copy and modify it, so there would be no copyright issues. Miller thinks the design she created was called Brushstroke, but apparently she doesn't remember exactly what she called it. Okay. If you come up with a quick design for a disposable cup, as a designer, I can totally see her naming it on the fly to legitimize the design, and not remembering what the name actually was. I mean, yeah, as someone who's worked in the design world for over 25 years, we make up BS names all the time. Apparently the company she worked for said the design was too forward-thinking and stopped using it after 1 year. Which is kind of interesting because why would they even use it in the first place? Interestingly enough, International Paper, who now owns Imperial Bondware, actually looked into this and found no reference to this design in their archives. My actual thought on this, as a designer who has made multiple throwaway designs, yeah, this could have happened, and Imperial Bondware could have lost all records of the design. I mean, everything was done on paper, and let's face it, you're not going to find old stock for disposable items. That said, historians and collectors have a way of recovering things, and I don't think that's happened yet. So I'll leave it up to you guys to figure out who designed the original Jazz graphic. But here's what's interesting about Miller's statement. When she said Solo could have gotten hold of a design, yeah, I mean, we see it all the time. A lot of companies copy or inspired by other designs, and if you're a designer who somehow got famous real quick on something you may have altered over 20 years ago, you may not want to admit that. You have no idea how many times someone has seen someone else's design and said to me, can you do this but in blue? Or instead of circles, can you use squares? And as a young designer, sometimes you do what you have to. You alter a base design just enough that technically it's not the same. This is all just speculation though. So could Miller have actually designed a proto-Jazz? Something that doesn't quite look like Jazz, but if you put them side by side, you could see the inspiration 100%. But if that's the case, her design never picked up and the revised Jazz or brushstroke design was ultimately a better design. But getting back to the cultural impact of Jazz, this style is what I would consider nostalgic design made famous in the 90s with its resurgence because of all those 90s kids growing up today. And today, Jazz is more than just a stock print or disposable cups. It's a memory, an idea, something you instantly feel nostalgic about. Thinking back to those days when you had no worries, no bills, no responsibilities. It's a powerful design because we made it powerful. Jazz became more than its original design intent, and now it's a mascot for vaporwave, for nostalgia, for a better time. Jazz has morphed into a new design language for a new group of people, and we all have a little known graphic designer named Gina Eckes to thank for that. Or Stephanie Miller, who knows really. So what is Gina up to today? For creating such an iconic design that is kind of worshipped by a lot of people, you think she'd be living that rock star designer lifestyle, right? Sadly, no. Well, I guess I wouldn't say sadly, but in a 2015 article by Entrepreneur, she's apparently a custom frame shop manager, which, full transparency here, I did that for a good 5 years and it was actually very relaxing and satisfying work, so good for her. And as for the cup, well, the cup is actually still being sold today. Although Solo said it's no longer producing them, you can still find them online. The company has also stated if they do go back to design, they would try to modernize it, which personally, I think this would be a horrible idea. Instead, they should capitalize on this cultural phenomenon and release the iconic design again and give Gina a bit more credit for her work. Mind you, no one would have thought Jazz, this throwaway design right here, would be what it is today. And if they do re-release the cup, I'd be worried there would be a massive surge in takedown notices and copyright infringements for anyone using it. Let's remember here, Solo is a massive firm, and firms are what, kids? Soulless machines. Anyway, you can read the entire original 2015 article on Springfield Newsletter, linked below, and if you're interested, you can get the cups here. But let me know in the comments if you remember this design, and when was the last time you actually saw it? Do you think Miller could have created the original design, or do you think Eckes is the actual designer? I'm still up in the air on this one, actually. Anyway, until next time, I'll catch you guys later.